welcome everybody to this Sunday show. It's August. We are back. And Gary, it's just 2 weeks away now. We'll be
Yes.
talking about real Arsenal football games in 2 weeks.
Oh, yes. Yes. I think we go to Wolves, or I think it's we go to Wolves.
Wolves at
right?
home.
Wolves at home. So there you go. Wolves come to the Emirates. So yeah, looking forward to that. We're going to see who we're going to start and how we're going to play and who's improved from the last time we saw them. So yes, looking forward to it. Hey Ray, Lawrence, and hello to you early. And Reddy's joined us. Welcome to the show, and everybody else that joins in the chat.
All right, Lawrence, football in 2 weeks from now. Just 2 more weekends.
Yeah. It's just amazing that, we were watching us trying to catch Manchester City for the league title. And before we know it, another season is upon us.
Yeah, definitely. Third time's going to be a charm this year. Bonjour, folks. Hope you're all well. From Reddy as well. 2 more days and he's back at the Arsenal. 2 more days before he's back at the Arsenal. Have Arsenal signed you already?
I was trying to figure out what that meant.
Yeah. Lawrence back in his usual center back position. Yeah. Listen, Reddy is going to join the Arsenal. Maybe he's going to bring Cala Merino with him to the Arsenal. Bring him to Arteta and bring him to Edu. Hold the shirt up, sign the contract, and it's a done deal. Yeah, listen, I think as Fabrizio Romano has said, the clubs will go with Mourinho first, Gary and Lawrence. Gary, it says Romano said it's price is pretty much considered right now. It's going to be about 30 million, and there's only minor details such as the structure of the deal and how little bits and pieces are going to be broken down.
Yeah, no, I think I'm feeling confident that we're going to get this one across the line, just like Calafiori. Same thing. My understanding, at least I believe he's still on vacation, just like some of our players. So, if our players were on vacation for as much time and then we're going to be leaving, they wouldn't have signed by now. So I think we are. If it's next week and we still don't have him, then yeah, either that's what time to. Hopefully we've moved on. So I don't. Yeah. There's no rush. These players played all the way up till the end of the season, the end of the Euros, and we just brought back our players now. So now he can, if he's back now he can talk about what his next move is. So we'll find out if all that information we heard before was real or somebody made it up.
And Reddy said he'll be back for the game on Wednesday when the Arsenal come back to London for Bayer Leverkusen. Granit Xhaka will be there. Alonso will be there. Not our Alonso, but Xavi Alonso. And Lawrence, so I think by Wednesday we should have some more concrete news on Cala Merino coming in. And Reddy has said hopefully next week. So this coming week, Lawrence, we might have another one that we can talk about in a serious way.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'll just wait for it to happen. Been down this road before, as I keep saying. Mikel Mudryk, Karim Benzema, Higuain, and others was done deal.
Adrian Rabiot.
Yeah, Julian Draxler.
Oh, come on! Now you start reaching. Some of these are like the ones that people use all the time, and nobody believes it. Come on, stop.
Yeah. When I went online, and I was seeing posts from Arsenal fans saying, "Oh, Julian Draxler's going to be at the club tomorrow to sign on the dotted line. It's a done deal. My sources have told me he's an Arsenal fan and he wants to come to the club."
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why.
Yeah.
So that's why I just wait for it to happen.
For it to be official.
I don't listen to all this gossip.
Yeah, and I think Arsenal are on solid ground now, to where those rumors, Calafiori, we can feel confident that Calafiori is coming. Mikel Marino, I can feel confident that that's going to happen as well. That the 30 million will be put down on the table, and a little bit like Declan Rice last year, we knew it was going to be a long and complicated process, um, validating the finer details in the deal in the contract as well. But it is going to happen that Mikel Marino will be uh, coming to Arsenal and be part of that midfield. So again, Gary and Lawrence and Gary, we're building from the back again in terms of our transfer business. Goalkeeper, defender, midfielder, and you know what that means. Maybe the next piece will be a forward of some sort, Gary.
Let's hope so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's sounds like there's different options there as well. So who knows what it could be? You know,
Yep.
some say striker, some say wing. We shall see.
Yeah. And we're going to talk a little bit about the options that are out there. It could be a Gikaris. It could be a. The latest one is Julian Alvarez right now. One that I'm particularly not that interested in. I think we've done that before. We've gone and taken some Man City players that weren't quite up to snuff. And Alvarez is another step again. As Gary says, there's levels to this. Alvarez is probably another step forward. But at the end of the day, I think we can maybe work some different options: a right winger, a left winger, or a striker of some sort. Maybe get Chris Jokers is one that could be there as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, Arsenal are now in a very good financial setting where the Cronkies have support behind Mikel Arteta and Edu and what they're going to do. And latest news is that we are the third richest club now in Europe, just behind Real Madrid and City. And how City have done that, I don't know. They may have inflated some things, um, but there you go. That's what's going on. Um, One thing I wanted to talk about today, and this will be a kind of a shorter podcast, but Gary, let's talk about what factors are taken into account when players' values are being negotiated. And Lawrence and I will chime in as well. But Gary, what kind of factors would you take into account when you're assessing the value to sell Emil Smith Rowe and the value to sell Eddie Nketiah
Yeah.
side by side?
Well, I guess sometimes it's how valuable they are to you, how much you actually utilize them in the course of a season, their talent level, right, the consistency, all these things you're going to play into. At least I think
Yeah,
they should be taken into account. Um, and if they don't fit your need, then it's time to move on. But I think sometimes the reason why Arsenal, for me, struggles anyways is that they show their cards so early in the process. Basically, mid-season, you realize, look, that player is, as they say, uh, surplus to
requirements.
requirements or whatever it
Yeah,
is. So, and teams know this, and Arsenal in the past has said, "Oh, we'll just give them away, and we'll buy off their contracts." And that is something that they needed to have changed from day one. Like when Arteta came in, that needed to change, and they're starting to change it now. But it's for me, for the amount of money, the difference in the money that they're looking for, I don't think it's that. It's a big for me. I don't think it's a reason to not go through, especially when you have bigger needs, right? Bigger needs. Bringing in our players is key. Arteta said it. He said he wanted to do that. And if there's a player out there like Nketiah, for example, that team wants, and he wants to go, my understanding is if a player says they want to go, then that's kind of like that puts pressure on the selling team. And Arsenal's thing is like, no, that doesn't mean anything. So when it goes the other way, then what do we, usually we always say when a player wants to come to Arsenal, that's when they can put pressure on the selling team, right? Or the team that's taking losing the player. And then when it comes to Arsenal, it seems like it doesn't put any pressure on us. We just do our thing, and it's like, all right. So the other way around doesn't matter either, then, right? Right? Because we hear a lot of times everybody wants to come to Arsenal, and Arsenal can't make it work sometimes. So that's kind of how I feel about it. For Nketiah, I think it's not a all of a sudden we want to get rid of him. I think this is a 2-3 years of analysis that guess what? It's not working. It's time to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what factors would you take into account, Lawrence? And we'll drill into this a bit deeper then. What factors would you take into account when you're at a selling club and you look at a player of Eddie Nketiah's qualities and Emil Smith Rowe's qualities, and how do you set? Does the market dictate it, or how do you assess the valuation on the player?
Personally, I value whether he's got the chance to get into the first team. And unfortunately, with the two players you've mentioned, they're not. They wouldn't get any playing time if they stayed with us. I mean, Emil Smith Rowe was unlucky with injuries because if he hadn't had those injuries, he'd be a permanent fixture in that first team with Saka.
Yeah.
And as I said, because of all the injuries he suffered, you know, he had to look elsewhere because, as I said before, only 11 can play in the game. And
Yeah.
if you can't get a game on if the manager won't give you a game off the bench, then what's the point in staying at the club? I mean, I really do like Emil Smith Rowe, but he's got to think about his career, and he wasn't getting the playing time when he came back from injury. I think Arteta only played him maybe 2 or 3 times, so he had to find somewhere else to go. And I said, I wish him all the best. We're at Fulham. I hope he can resurrect his career, and he has a good time there. Now, as for Eddie Nketiah, that's another subject because I'm beginning to think that he doesn't want to leave the club. He's quite happy getting 100 grand a week, and if he's still at the club,
Marseille says
in a
they're
couple
paying
of
his 100. Marseille says they're paying his salary, so that's not it.
He wants to
well,
go
if
to
he's
France
still
as
at,
well.
well, if he's still at the club in a couple of years when he's 27, 28, he's basically wasted his career because he had several opportunities to go elsewhere. A few years ago, Fulham, Crystal Palace, and West Ham all wanted him, and he didn't want to stay. I mean, this is a player that we sent out to Leeds on loan, and he couldn't get a game at Leeds United. So that tells you everything about him. He is a shit player. I'm sorry to say that, but he's shit. And as I said before, I've seen better players with beer guts playing at Hackney Marshes on a Sunday morning who could walk into the Arsenal team ahead of him.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Ray and Gary, he's only got himself to blame, because when I see him play for us, I see this negative look on his face, And as I said, if he's still at Arsenal in a couple of years, when he'll be they're supposed to be in the prime of his career, he will have wasted his career when he could have gone elsewhere.
Yeah. There'd be obviously a huge difference between 2 years. If he's still here within 2 years and now, there'll be a big difference. But I think it's going to be the time frame is going to be closer to 2 weeks than 2 years. I feel anyway, Lawrence,
And
and
furthermore,
yes,
and furthermore, and furthermore, Ray, if we
yeah,
bring in another striker, he's going to be fourth in line because there'll be the new striker, there'll be Jesus, and there'll be Havertz ahead of him.
yeah, and that's
He's not
why,
going to get.
I'm going to phrase it as a forward. We could get a right winger, we could get a player of the quality of a Neto, right, at Wolverhampton Wanderers, and that wouldn't necessarily displace Saka per se, but it would allow more playing time for Neto and Saka to get a little bit more rest as we are talking about playing on four fronts this coming season and trying to get to a situation in April where we are still going on four fronts. And I know the Carabao Cup ends in February, but we go deep in
Do,
all those competitions.
do you think Nelson might get a second chance? Because I was really impressed with him
You
out here.
see, you're
Not,
talking about you were talking about Eddie Nketiah as the player who seems comfortable. To me, Nelson could be that player who seems comfortable. And we'll know maybe at the end of this window on the 30th of August, Friday the 30th of
yeah,
August, when the deadline day and the transfer window slams shut, as Stan likes to say it. We'll know who
yeah,
has been able to have their move and who has not been able to have their move between
yeah,
Eddie and
but he's,
Nketiah, Nelson, and Ramsdale at this point.
yeah, but like I said, Ray, I mean, I haven't been Reece Nelson's greatest fan because I don't think he was that good. But I
Yeah,
was really impressed with his performances out here in the
yeah,
two games that I saw.
yeah. And look,
So I'm
we
looking at
know
that, and
we know that this Arsenal team in 2024, 2025 is building past the skill set of Eddie Nketiah, building past the skill set of Reece Nelson. And in some ways, it's gone past the skill set of Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus even to start with. You know what I mean? So I think in a couple more weeks we'll have more um, a more crystallized view of what is going to happen with Eddie Nketiah. Uh, and I think that, as Gary said, Marseille are going to cover the wages. Eddie Nketiah wants to go to France. By all indications, we're hearing that. But what's happening right now, Gary, is that the club, whether you like it or not, the club is standing firm on a valuation they have of Eddie Nketiah.
Yeah, at the sacrifice of what we need to do next, which is we need to fill some other holes,
Mm-hmm.
right? We Moreno and Calafiori are filling some holes and gaps for us, but we have some holes and gaps up top that we're still in our attack that we still need to fill as well. So I I feel like we're that close,
Yeah.
and when you're that close, then you need to be able to be a little bit flexible and maybe take the hit because you're that close. I mean, if we don't get said player or players that are helping our attack, we'll be back in the same situation we were last time.
But
Looking for goals in games where the starters aren't clicking, right? The starters are overworked, right?
yeah.
The team we're playing has a really good defensive structure in place in front of us, and we're not able to finish. And we need something different. We need some new players added. So the ones we
But
have aren't working.
do you think it's important, Gary, that we're at least sending a message? And it seems to be Eddie Nketiah is the hill that we're defending right now.
Yeah, right.
We're hitting that crest. Okay, we sold Balogun last summer for a decent amount of change.
Yeah.
This season it's going to be Eddie Nketiah, but it does seem like the club is showing the football world we want to hold out for a stronger valuation of our players now.
I get it, but some of these players in the last 2 to 3 years haven't. Their value hasn't held. I mean, there's potential, but that potential is after a year, not after 2, 3 years of seeing what we've seen. Like I if Arsenal was bringing in a player, and it was Nelson, it was Nketiah, it was ESR, well, we would be looking at everything, the same things we're complaining about. One, the coach doesn't trust them. They're injured. When they do play, do they look like they really, are given 100%, right? But when the coach doesn't trust you, then it's like, yeah, that's what you see. Plays out the door. Like, is it going to be a Trossard? No, because Trossard actually in that season showed that he was worthy of the monies. And think about it, Trossard was 25. Yes, he was older. We paid 25 mil for him. Right? Right now, I think we're off by a couple mil for Nketiah. How is that? Why would we expect the thought was we could get double for Nketiah. Like, how does that work? Like the Trossard and Nketiah, the valuations of them in terms of what they bring to the table, not even close. Not even close.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you honestly think Eddie Nketiah is worth 30 million?
In this day and age, with money swishing around the Premier League, I think that a Premier League club, if he doesn't go to Marseille, I think a Premier League club would be tempted to spend 30 million on Eddie Nketiah. So old school me, the old school person and supporter of me, Lawrence, would say no, he's not worth 30 million. But when you see, as Riddy said, when you see Marseille paying more than double that for Greenwood, but not for Eddie.
I mean, you're comparing apples and oranges.
Sure.
So it's not the same. So no, it's not the same. How can you compare the talents of both players? I know there's a history and all of that. There's a scarlet letter and all of that on there,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So yeah, you have to deal with that.
And that's
but the talent levels aren't even, once again, not even on the same stratosphere. Not even.
Well, how do you look at? That's kind of what I want to look at today, Gary. Is how do we look at these things? Greenwood has that scarlet letter around him, but he's got some quality about him that can add to the team.
What a top English striker, possibly a number one striker for England, right? Going in the future. That's kind of how he was looked at, I believe.
Yeah.
Right? Nketiah was a really good U21 striker. Will it translate to the first team, right? Has it translated? When have you looked at a sequence of games by Nketiah and went, that could be a future number one England striker?
Yeah, I agree. He hasn't taken the next step. But if you tell me,
I want it, but I don't see it. So what are we supposed to do? Right?
But Gary, I know the end product is not the be all and end all of everything, but Eddie Nketiah could go to Marseille and put up the similar numbers to Greenwood. I know it's not apples to apples.
Greenwood was playing in a championship final and performing. Tell me, tell me when you've seen half of that from Nketiah, like that level of performance.
It's been very sporadic. I have not. Yeah.
Gary, the problem with Greenwood is it's still got that charge for attacking his girlfriend.
No, I don't want to. We don't need to talk about it. I'm just saying that the talent level is what we're talking about. We're not talking about anything else. Go by the talent level. They're not in the same level. They're not at the same level. So, and that's what we're paying for, and that's why you're paying for that, or you're paying for potential, right?
Yeah.
And what potential does anybody see in Nketiah from where he is today? Like, are we expecting to see 20 goal scorer from Nketiah, no matter what league he goes into and plays?
No. 10 to 15 at most. If he goes to Marseille and has a great season, he's scoring between 10 and 15 goals. And that would probably be a good season for Nketiah.
Oh, Ray, I was reading online that Marseille pulled out because they say are still offering too much because they're now chasing some striker from Borussia Dortmund.
Yep. And that's part of the art of the negotiating, right? So you've had 3 attempts, you've had 3 bids. I think Arsenal and Marseille almost like not agreed formally, but they're like, okay, we're going to take a moment here, let the dust settle a little bit, and we may come back for Eddie, but once you get the three bids that have been rejected, usually I'd like to see that third bid be agreed, but Arsenal have stood firm on that. When we went and got Kieran Tierney, I know it was a few seasons ago, but it took three bids, and it was Arsenal of old doing that. The guy, what we'd like to do is maybe not compare Greenwood because of the
It's not
baggage.
even Greenwood. It's even
Yeah,
Emil Smith Rowe.
exactly. That's what I
Emil
wanted to
Rowe
get to now.
has better talent level, more
Yeah,
potential because we've seen it. Right, the
right.
potential's there because we've seen it.
Yep.
Comparison between him and Emil Smith Rowe, not even close. He's getting double the amount. Like when has he come close? When has he come close to getting 10 goals? Right, and when has he been efficient coming off the bench and scoring goals for
The best
Arsenal?
season he's
He
had is
said he said
five.
he said he needs to start to score.
Yeah,
Right, first you say it, then you do it is what I say. And usually,
you
your
back
job
it
is
up.
to score
Yeah,
goals. It doesn't matter if you're starting or not. You're a
yeah.
striker. That is your number one uh, role on the
Mo.
squad. You
Yeah,
go, you get on the pitch, you score goals. That's what
yeah,
you do. Not I need to start to score goals. No, because you already lost. You've already lost when the coach says I can't start you today. All
yeah,
right. So then
yeah,
why would he play you after that? All right. Like
yeah.
so so I like I said
It's difficult, right? Because okay, we're going to compare Eddie to Emil Smith Rowe, and we're looking for similar money for each player. Arsenal have basically valued both of those players equally
and
in
they're not
Eddie and
equal at
Nketiah,
all. Not
and
even. More
yeah,
people want to keep Emil Smith Rowe than they want Nketiah. All right,
yeah,
which means that Emil Smith Rowe is worth more to the team. Should be worth more in the marketplace. Right, his valuation should be higher. But somehow Nketiah's value is higher. Why? Because he practices well. Because that's the only thing we know is that he practices well.
yeah.
Right, and that's why
And
he's still around. Right.
I think Eddie Nketiah at the end of if he goes to Marseille at the end of this season, he'll have similar numbers at Marseille than Emil Smith Rowe would have at Fulham. I would think at the end of this season coming.
We
Yes,
shall see. We
we
shall
shall
see.
see.
With
Remains to
limited
be seen.
time, with
Exactly.
limited time, not a lot of starts. You know,
Yeah.
Yusuf Rose had 10 goals,
Yeah.
and as you said, Nketiah's had five at his best. So
Five in his best season.
yeah. So I kind of feel like
So what I did, Gary and Lawrence, I looked at Eddie Nketiah's best two seasons at Arsenal, and I looked at Emil Smith Rowe's best two seasons at Arsenal, and Eddie's uh, they're basically around 50 games, right? So Eddie's played 51 games in his two best seasons. He scored 9 goals and had 2 assists. Emil Smith Rowe in his best two seasons had 53 games, scored 12 goals and 6 assists. So 18 goal involvements versus 11 in their two best seasons. So the quality, we know Emil Smith Rowe has greater quality. It's not apples to apples because they play slightly different positions. But for me, the three qualities you look for in a potential sale would be your quality, your actual quality to be able to play in that position and perform well would be number one. Second would be the potential. Every club signs a player for the not for what they've done in the past, but what they can do for you and do for their club. The potential would be the availability as well and efficiency. So I'm looking at Emil Smith Rowe for availability, and I'm looking at Eddie Nketiah for efficiency in front of goal as well. We know Emil Smith Rowe can be efficient when he's fit and on the field. And the third one would be to complement the style of play of the club that you're going to go to. I think Emil Smith Rowe, I think both players could probably complement the style of play that they're going to perform in. But those are the three things. And yes, Gary, there is certain caveats. Will Emil Smith Rowe stay injury free? We actually hope that he does, and we'll be watching him at Fulham. And will Eddie Nketiah? We know Eddie Nketiah can play most games and will be available and can train well. But will he be able to get on the end of moves and put um, assists away? And That's what a striker is assessed on. That's what Eddie's going to be assessed on. So for me, I think the actual quality of Emil Smith Rowe is higher than Eddie, and the difference, the requisite difference, Gary, is probably availability, where Eddie wins, and quality, where Emil Smith Rowe might win out. And that's kind of where maybe the valuations are kind of equal in that way. You know, I know there's a lot there.
Yep, yep. So Big Gunner has joined us along with Colonel Wall just joined us. So welcome to the show.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
no, yep.
chime in, guys, on Emil Smith Rowe and Eddie Nketiah. We're basically going to get probably 30 million for each player. You know,
It sounds about
but
right to me, based on everything. You put all the pros and cons
yeah,
up there, and they're probably equal in that sense. But the if all things are equal, the Milster Pro is going to give you more,
yeah. If
right?
if Emil Smith Rowe can put up similar amount of minutes to Eddie Nketiah, we know that Emil Smith Rowe will probably provide more for probably the combined assists and goals would be higher than Eddie itself. Anyone remember Ryan Brewster? Yeah, I think they got 20 million. He didn't really hit it off though at Sheffield United, signing from Liverpool. So Lawrence, what do you
Those
think?
are those are
Yeah,
anomalies that have happened,
happened.
right? But
Yeah,
nowadays, I don't know if we're seeing players that don't have potential sell for more than they can based on what
yeah,
we've seen, right? I
and
mean, look at what is it, Cole Palmer, right? He sold on potential, right? And
yeah,
and we saw how that played out. You have to have some serious potential, and sounded as if he really wanted to stay at City to begin with. So
yeah.
and you know what? And you want that confidence in a player, right? He was a
The thing,
confident player. He was confident in his skill set, and that's why he made the move he did. And what did he do? He actually went out and performed.
the
That's
thing.
like Nketiah hasn't done that.
No,
Nketiah has not put
yeah.
himself in a situation where he could fail.
I think the thing with Cole Palmer as well is Man City know that they are under scrutiny for their transfer financial fair play, and they've been trying to balance the books ever since they sold Zinchenko and Jesus to us, and Palmer. They've been trying to show some incomings as well, legitimate incomings to their club as well. Solanke is just now starting to show his value. When is Eddie going to come good? Yeah, they're probably about the same valuation. Lawrence, what do you think about the pros and cons of each player, Eddie Nketiah versus Emil Smith Rowe? I mean, availability, Eddie's going to beat out Emil Smith Rowe, but quality wise, I think Emil Smith Rowe's got higher quality ceiling than Eddie.
It's as different as chalk and cheese. Uh, Emil Smith Rowe would be one of the first names I put down on my team sheet if I was a manager.
Yeah,
because he's got the drive, he's got the ability, he can create goals, he can score goals. You know, I think he's the complete midfield player, basically. As for Eddie Nketiah, I just don't see it with him. I'm not just picking on him. People may think, "Oh, you're picking on him," but as I said, he's the longest serving member of the Arsenal first team. His first game was under Arsene Wenger against Norwich in the League Cup.
mm.
And for someone to be at one club for 7 years and still not cement a spot in the first team just says everything about it.
Yeah, yeah. He
He's
hasn't been
not
able to
good. I'm
push through.
sorry. He's not consistent. He's not good. And he's stopping others in the squad from getting that spot. I'll go as
Yeah,
far to say he's stopping players in the academy from advancing.
I think as Arsene Wenger used to say, Eddie Nketiah's quality or lack of quality is killing killing the path to another player coming in. So there has to be one going out for one to come in as well.
I mean,
Rule said,
let me
yeah,
ask you, let me ask you this, Ray. If you were a player and you were the longest serving member of the first team for 7 years, wouldn't you be asking yourself, why am I still here? Wouldn't you be putting in a transfer request to find uh, opportunities with other teams to play in? But to stay for 7 years at one club and not cement your spot in the team,
yeah.
you know,
But I
players
think, Lawrence, we can only hear what the journalists are telling us. And I think I'm hearing from the journalists is that Eddie Nketiah is open to going to France. He wants to go to France. And as you're saying, he wants to play football. And I think as Eddie played in that Fulham game when we lost away from home on New Year's Eve, and ever since then, I think it's been shown that Mikel Arteta has not really put his full faith in Eddie ever since that game. So when you sit on the bench, it changes. As a footballer, your mind gets changed. And it could be a stark realization one day when you're sitting on the bench, as we've seen, uh, as I remember a clip of Emile Smith Rowe during the run in, not getting the look in. Um, as we and Eddie could have been sitting there from January through May, thinking, "I need to. It's time now to move on for me as well." Rules said, as harsh as it sounds, both players fill the criteria for Arsenal at different stages of our development under Arteta. Um, Colonel says not buying a world class striker will be the downfall of our season again, and only one midfielder, as we know, if one or two get injured, Havertz is right back in midfield. It's a stark. Um, that's a very stark thought. Um, Arteta and co can look at the number of goals scored last season and say they do not need an out-and-out striker. But I agree with that rule. But I do feel we need a forward of some sort, a winger that can weigh in with 8 or 9 goals um, when they get their chance to either start games or come on as a substitute. BX said, for me, Emile Smith Rowe just falls short. When he was in the academy, he was making waves. It was a name that stood out. But ever since he's come to the first team, he's only had one good season. And, that's the injury. Maybe the valuation of him, 27 million plus 7 in add-ons, is the valuation of the injury history that he has, and that's a tough one to negotiate against when you're trying to sell a player, right? Um, Nelson played under Arson in the League Cup at the right wing back, says Colonel. Um, I believe Emile Smith Rowe is not as talented as we saw, and he's constantly injured. For me, he was undersized and ineffective most times, in my opinion. And Gary's going to be a bit of a stark difference for Emile Smith Rowe going from Arsenal playing with really good players to now taking that step down to a mid-table team. With all due respect to Fulham, uh, he'll have his days, but most of the days, most of the match days will be tough against stronger opposition.
Yep. 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 It's a tough. I mean, for me, I feel it's like an easy decision to make and easy evaluation of the player. I saw somebody bring the comment up about Solanke, and even that you can't really compare. I mean, Solanke in his last season has 19 goals,
Yeah,
and Nketiah in his career in the Premier League, or at least in his career for Arsenal, has 19 goals.
90 goals total.
So, so for me, once again, we're comparing potential. We're comparing the stats as they say fit, and I think how they lead their teams. Like Eddie, yeah, secondary striker. I
Yeah,
don't even know. Like the secondary striker needs to be able to come in and look like a. You would like it to look like a Julian
Impact.
Alvarez, and I know that's not fair, but that's what we're dealing. That's what we are dealing with. We're dealing with one of the top strikers in the world, and then Julian Alvarez coming off the bench once in a while to spell him. Right? So that's where we need to be somewhat close to that, and we're not even. We're nowhere near there yet. So. Yeah.
And we would hope, Rule, that if a forward comes to the club, he will get a fair shake of minutes, a fair amount of minutes to share across the season.
Arteta doesn't hold back on when he brings in his own players. He will play them until they either fail him, like a Tavares, or until he figures it out, like a Xhaka, Xhaka maybe not true, but maybe not 100%, but. Havertz for sure. We felt he was not performing well in the midfield. He comes up top, and we see a better performance from him, and we see answers to questions.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
BX said,
I don't think a player that comes in nowadays will not get the opportunity to play. Like if Kiwior has played, if Vieira once again was healthy, I think he would get minutes because Arteta brought him in, right? But he's not been healthy, so
it's going to be a big season.
We saw at the beginning of the previous season when he was healthy, he got to play, and he performed, and he actually scored some goals for us, and created some assists. So, need to do it. He needs to be healthy.
There's that big season ahead for Fabio Vieira as well. BX said he's getting a bigger role to prove himself, and I hope he nails it. And the bigger role, I think, potentially is Marseille we're talking about. I always prefer to have an option of an opposing figure on the bench. I remember when you had options on our bench like Canu and difference maker like Jose Antonio Reyes. Emile Smith-Rowe, do we feel if he didn't have the injuries, Lawrence sort of said if he didn't have the injuries at Arsenal that Mikel Arteta would have used him more?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely, because if you remember when he broke into the team with Saka,
yes,
they were just dynamite down that left flank together. They were causing teams problems, and who knows what would have happened if he had stayed injury free.
Yeah. Definitely. For Emile Smith-Rowe, his game time was numbered when Odegaard, Vieira, Trossard, and Havertz came along.
It made it easy for them to come into the squad when Emile Smith-Rowe wasn't available.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like if Saka wasn't available, it would be the same thing. They would be bringing in a right wing if Saka wasn't available and wasn't performing. But guess what? He's performing, and they're not looking for a replacement or bringing in players that might compete. Still,
and that's the unfortunate thing about professional football, right? If you want to keep your place, and you have to keep your place by playing regularly, and you have to play regularly, and you have to contribute to the team. If you're a goalkeeper, you have to raise the levels, and your distribution, shot stopping, and command of the box has to be strong. If you're a defender, you have to limit the opposition's chances and be comfortable on the ball in modern football. If you're a midfielder, you got to control the tempo and win duels and possession, which I think Merino will do and has the highest stats in Europe of. If you're a central attacking midfielder, you have to create chances, either carrying the ball or pass with vision, orchestrate the attack or demand the ball, which is what we hope Emile Smith-Rowe can do at Fulham. I think every Arsenal fan will wish him well at Fulham as well. It's not, I would say it's not a club that we dislike, but it took a lot of points off Arsenal last season. And finally, if you're a striker, you have to be a finisher. Your movement has to be of the quality of being able to get on the end of things and put the ball in the back of the net. And you have to actually be able to hold the ball and include wingers, which is what I think is one of Eddie Nketiah's weaknesses, is not being able to hold on to the ball well enough. You know what I mean? Um, so your availability, efficiency, and you have to complement the style of play as well. So those two players, hopefully, with Eddie, I don't see a lot of Arsenal fans are saying this brinkmanship with Eddie Nketiah and the club holding out for 30 million. I still think there's 2 weeks left till the season starts and 26 days, Gary, till the window shuts. That if he doesn't go to Marseille, I think a Premier League club will think 30 million is a decent.
Well, yeah, I hope for him because I feel staying with Arsenal would not be a good option for him. Kind of felt like for his career, he needs to go. It was nice being at home, being in comfortable surroundings and whatnot, but at some point I felt like he needs to go out there and see the world away
Yeah,
from the comforts of home. That's what he needs to do. So
yeah,
we'll see if Arsenal I think should want that for him based on like I said how they utilize him. You know, we're not a team that, as some people say, we can't have passengers. Everybody needs to be able to be able to come in and fill a hole when we
help.
need it late in the
Yeah,
season. You can
yeah.
tell that, right? So we'll
We're
see.
gonna be we're gonna be talking about a season in the Premier League where we can only have 6 or 7 disappointing results. I know Arteta said we need 114 points uh, to beat City.
Well, 6 or 7. What do you mean by disappointing results?
While losses are draws in the Premier League.
Well, like no, but what does that mean? What out of the 7? How many are losses? How many are draws?
Well, 4 losses and 3 draws, or 3 losses and 4 draws. Yeah, and approximately 30 or 31 of them have to be wins of some sort. We have to be looking at again extending the record level of Arsenal and going past 90 points um, to win this Premier League. Um, so yeah, Lawrence, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel confident that the club will be able to find 30 million buyer for Eddie?
I don't know. I really don't know because I don't think he's worth 30 million.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's worth
I
what
can see him and
he's worth what a team is willing to pay for him, right?
yeah. I mean, if that's what Arsenal are asking for, I'm sure there is someone out there who's willing
Yeah,
to throw
yeah.
30 million down the drain. Eddie Nketiah scores
You
again,
know what? For somebody
but
we're trying to sell a player, your negativity, your negative talk isn't helping. We're
I'm
trying to
just,
sell the
I'm
player.
just
You're
being,
trying to sell a player for 30 million,
I'm
but
just,
you're telling the suitor
I'm
he's really not very good,
I'm,
but you can have him for 30 million.
I'm just, I'm just trying to be realistic, some, like Claude from AFTV was, mate. I'm just being a realist, and
Yeah,
I don't think he's worth 30 million. If
and
he's worth 30 million, then I'm worth 100 million. But I'm just
Now, see,
saying,
this is where you
I'm
this is where
sure, I'm
you, you're
sure,
crossing lines here. You,
Eddie's
you
a
just cross,
professional footballer,
you just
Lawrence.
crossing lines.
yeah.
DX said,
I'm
right.
just thinking maybe he could end up somewhere like Ipswich or Leicester or
Yep,
Southampton.
yep.
A
There's
team that's
there's
probably going to
the teams that have come up, right? Leicester City, Ipswich, and I don't know.
Southampton.
Was it Southampton? Yeah. I didn't want to upset Tom again or bring back any bad PTSD memories there, but yeah, it was Southampton. Southampton could go and get Eddie Nketiah. Ipswich or Leicester City. You know what I mean? And these are the
Yeah,
teams that are going to need to score goals as well. Um, the, almost certainly now, if you get promoted from the championship, you're probably a favorite to go back down. It's that difficult to stay in the Premier League now, and we saw that even last season. Nottingham Forest were always going to be safe because they had just enough quality to be that team that stepped away from the trapdoor at the bottom. It's so difficult now for championship clubs to come back in and stay in and be in the Premier League for a decent amount of years. That clubs will be tempted to spend that they get a lot of money to come into the Premier League that they are almost expected. It's incumbent upon them to go and spend that money. BX said this season will be very tight and competitive. Could have more than two teams fighting for the title. I mean, Liverpool hung in there
Yeah, I mean,
till April.
okay, yeah, no, I mean, I can
Right?
see, the three from last season, and the season before that maybe being that, but I don't think it'll be anybody think there'll be a new team to maybe get into that mix. Like,
I
is
can't see
Manchester
it.
United ready? I don't think so. Chelsea is still figuring their way through this thing. Um, that team, I mean, I don't know.
Aston,
I don't
Aston
think. I
Villa
still
will
think
have
they don't have the depth yet.
Champions League football. So these teams who Aston Villa came fourth, they've got Champions League football now, and they'll find an issue with higher level European football and combining that with the Premier League as well. Rose
Yeah,
said Saka is no longer a youngster, and every player at Arsenal needs a competitor, else a certain amount of ego will steep in. But
It's
I don't think that's.
it's
Salah doesn't have
22.
that.
I don't think Saka is that.
Yeah,
Saka is that type of player. That's the thing. I
Saka,
don't think Saka is not a player that is like big ego. At least in my eyes, I don't believe
correct.
he's that type of player.
yeah.
That yeah,
It's
I'm gonna. It's more Arteta is forcing him to play more than guess what
Saka,
he wants. Saka believes he can play and he's fine. As an athlete, you always find a play no matter what, right? The team has to look out for your health, and that's when they put you to the side and say, "Look, you need to take a break." Arteta doesn't trust anybody else, right? The most trustworthy player we've seen in English football on in an international English team and Arsenal is Saka, right?
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
the most
Can I
consistent
just
player across both teams, right? He plays every game, and he'll play anywhere. And that's the thing I don't understand. Also with Arteta, that guess he can play anywhere. So once in a while, maybe you need to change him, give him a little different view of the pitch, because he can still
yeah,
perform no matter where he plays on the pitch. And
yeah,
sometimes we need that when we have injuries and whatnot, and you have a player that maybe like a Nelson could come in, right? Play in that side, and maybe and Saka can move around to fill a spot that might be needed as well. Because I'd rather put Nelson in his strongest position and let Saka play anywhere on most of these pitches that we play, because I think he'll deliver, and he's shown it.
yeah.
can I
Lawrence,
can I just can I just say something, right? That
yeah,
whoever posted that comment about Saka is not a youngster anymore. The boy's 22 years old. Just because he's experienced does not mean he's old. He's 22 years old.
both of you can be
So,
correct. Both of you can be correct. You're saying the same thing in different ways, I
The
believe.
amount of minutes
You
that
know,
he's playing, he is not a youngster anymore
he's
because
got experience.
he's not taking breaks.
He's an international player,
A
Gary.
player at
We
22
agree.
he's
who you
22
see,
years old.
yeah, no, but the minutes he's playing
He's,
over the last 3 seasons aren't like a youngster's minutes,
No,
right? That's not what a youngster. That's what
so,
when you're in your prime. That's why he's playing well over his years. He's outperforming his age right now,
yeah,
right? With the minutes that
you're
the
well,
pressure that's being put on him,
you're
he's not
both.
he's not being asked to play as a youngster. He's being asked to play as a senior player on a team that has aspirations to win trophies, right? And he hasn't actually been on a pitch to win a big trophy with Arsenal ever in a
Yeah,
first team ever in his life, right?
yeah.
Right? There's
I,
players on
I
here who have done that, and he's
yeah,
not one of them.
well, even that. So he's 22 years old, and people think he's no longer a youngster because of the amount of games he's played. You know, you're
You
barking
think
up the
you
wrong
think
tree.
you'll think he'll hit 28 continuing playing like he is today? You think he'll hit 28? We've
Yeah,
seen it. We have examples of it in this club. When you push a player and they play over and beyond, guess what? They burn out, and then
yeah,
and then their careers are
yeah,
shortened, right? He cannot play at the level he is, right?
yeah.
He can't. Not if we want him to stay here
And
and
that's
play his last game in a red
yeah.
shirt.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important, Gary, as well, to get another forward that Saka doesn't have to play premium minutes every season as well, and he can actually give us more output with less minutes on the field each season. Rule said he wasn't referring to his age. However, he has played injured for Arsenal with a sore heel, which can lead to other injuries. I believe what Rule is saying as well. Yeah, injuries. I got your Rule. Um, so yeah, definitely, we're all saying kind of the same thing. I know, Lawrence, you're saying he's 22 years old. I get it, but he's got such a bank of international experience. He excelled in the Champions League. He did not look out of place. Scored in the quarterfinal home leg against Bayern Munich, and has done um, more and more each and every season in terms of output. And so Bukayo Saka, whilst there will be more older players and more experienced players around him on the field, he is still not a youngster. He's been around and playing for many, many seasons now, probably 4 or 5 seasons at a high level, you know. So that was not a
Well,
huge, yeah.
what about Phil Foden? He's a youngster as well. I mean,
Uh,
Phil Foden's a
Look at
roughly
the
the
minutes
same
that
age.
he's. Look at the minutes and the pressure and the leadership that he has to perform. Not anywhere close to what Saka's being asked to do.
Yeah.
They're not the same. They're
Well,
not the same. Foden might be
well,
more talented, but he's not being asked
but
to lead
Gary,
his team. He's not being asked to lead his team. So I don't think it's the same
uh,
comparison at all. Not he doesn't have the pressure that Saka has. Saka doesn't play well. Team struggles. Foden doesn't play well. Doesn't matter because you got KDB, you got Rodri, you got like five
well,
or six
we've got
players
Declan
that can
Rice
answer the
and
call.
we got Odegaard. I
Yeah,
would
we've
kind of
gotten
stack
better
them.
this year. Yeah, we've got three. Yeah, but we don't have a world class player like a KDB, like a Rodri, right? We don't have a world class goalkeeper, right? And that's what we're up against, right? So until we have that,
Raya.
he's still one of the leaders that's being asked to do more than
Yeah.
A Foden is.
I would actually,
Foden supposedly is world class, and then goes to Euros and tell me who looked more world
and
class in the
I
Euros,
think he's.
Saka or Foden.
I think Saka's better than Foden as well. We've seen this in the European Championships in terms of what you're able to deliver at the highest level. Foden did not turn up for England, and maybe that's a little bit. He doesn't complement the style of play that Gareth Southgate was trying to implement. Whereas I think Bukayo Saka, you could put Bukayo Saka in any team with any style of play, and he would almost perform with the same results. I would say. I mean, he's done it with Southgate. He's shown goals and assists at international level, whereas Foden has not. And Rose said Foden does not play every game. With Kevin De Bruyne out last season for about 6 months, Phil Foden did have to step in to his shoes. And at Man City, he had the platform, but at Man City, he did acquit himself quite well.
Saka has
Um,
never had the situation where, guess what? The starter is out. I need you to come in and fill a need. Saka is that starter, and guess what? Saka is that backup as well.
yeah.
And the backup part is on Arteta. He doesn't trust anybody, and he hasn't brought a player in. But in reality, it's totally like the levels are different in terms of what the responsibility is to the team.
Gary, what would you like to see in the next couple of weeks before the window shuts? Would you like to see a player that is a right-sided forward that could allow Saka to sit on the bench, or would you like to see a striker in some other area of the field?
Oh, it's like a yes, yes, all of the above. We need to bring in a striker. We need to have cover for Saka. If it's not Nelson, then we need cover for Saka.
Yeah,
That's got to be.
Jesus.
Those are the only two. Like we need cover for Saka.
Okay.
If Nelson leaves, you bring some. If Nelson isn't going to cover for Saka, you have to sell him and bring in another player, right? If Jesus is the cover, that's fine. But is Nelson a passenger? Or is he going to play? If he's not going to play, you sell him. You still need to
Mm.
replace him with another player, though. That's what Arteta says. right? That
Yeah,
they're not going to bring in a striker until they sell Nketiah, right? That's what
yeah,
we've heard, right?
most
So,
likely. Yeah.
right,
Uh
they sold Sambi. They brought in a Calafiori basically with that kind of if you go in one out kind of thing. And
exactly. And I got
he
it
was
here
coming
in the
back.
banner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was coming back to the team, right? So
BX said Saka is building up to greatness. So, we want to see more and more numbers from Bukayo Saka this coming season. And maybe if you could do more with less minutes, that would also help him sustain through the years that he's going to be at Arsenal. We are talking about having Bukayo Saka at Arsenal in 5 or 6 years still, and to be putting up similar numbers. So we can talk about Bukayo Saka in the same breath as Salah, Mo Salah, in terms of the numbers he's putting up every year. You know, um, so here it looks like on the outset we've got Emil Smith Rowe sold to Fulham, basically banking 27 to 34 million for that, and we're hoping to get a similar amount for Eddie Nketiah. So that's basically 65 million to 70 million in the door, and that that money will go to balance the sheet for Calafiori and hopefully Mikel Merino coming in. So when you look at that on the outset, as you said, Gary, Eddie for Calafiori and Emil Smith Rowe for Marino. Have we raised the level a little bit in the squad by doing that?
yes, because they're going to play.
Hmm. And they have quality,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
The talent level is better. So yeah, yes, it is better. Yeah,
So this is a good window so far for Arsenal, Lawrence. We get a similar amount of money coming in as we're spending. We still probably have some money to spend, Gary, when you look at it, because the outgoings and the incomings are roughly equal.
Not yet. I just looked at it. If transfer mark is a barometer of it, no, we're still we bought it. We sold
Seven, basically, there's a few quid there, right? There's a few
no, we
million
sold for
pounds.
31 and we bought for whatever 48 or whatever it is for Calafiori.
You're talking about euros.
Yeah, in euros. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm
So
going with pounds.
so yeah. So it's I guess it's almost even. It's less than 10 mil, but
Yeah,
we
there's
need
not
to
a lot
sell.
in it.
We need to sell more players. So yeah, yeah. Need to sell more players.
So, Lawrence, what do you think? Are we raising the level here? Eddie and the miss with Rowe, unfortunately, having to leave, but we got Calafiori and Marino coming in. We're raising the level of the squad.
Yeah,
We do that, right?
definitely. Uh,
Okay.
as you said earlier, we're the third richest club in the world now.
Yep.
So obviously, players from other clubs see us as an alternative when they are looking to move on to pastures new, which is a good thing. We no longer have to try and search for players like Yaya Sanogo and Shamak
Jan and
and
Villa.
yeah,
Jan, Jan and Villa, I think you mentioned earlier.
and Mustafi and all them top quality players. We can actually bring in some real quality now.
Yeah.
And if this deal for Marino goes through, that'll be another feather in our cap.
Yeah.
And then hopefully Arteta can bring in a striker that can bag us 20, 25 goals.
Yeah.
And then bring in someone as cover for Saka.
Be nice. Rule said, I think Chiesa would be of more value than a Neto. And these are very tenuous transfer links to me. I don't know if we're going to go and get a Juventus star in Chiesa or drop 50 million for Neto from Wolverhampton Wanderers, who probably has just as much injury issues as Emil Smith Rowe had. So Neto would be a dangerous one. Calafiori and Marino are actually Cedric and El Neni, but with just much more quality, I would say. I hope Calafiori performs better than a Cedric um, backup. Yeah. All right, so we're going to get out of here in a few minutes. If anyone's got any questions, throw them in the chat box. But I don't know. Marseilles Evidic.
I don't know
So
who
this
that
is.
is.
I
That's
think this. Hold on. This might be like a little bit of a question to. Is there's probably nobody. I've not heard anybody of that name myself, so I don't know if Reddy's throwing a carrot out there,
yeah.
dangling a carrot out there.
I just
Yes.
to be sure, I did a I did a search to see if somebody actually exists with that name, and I don't see anybody. So I don't know if that's a real football player. It might be a football player. Maybe the spelling is wrong, but
Yeah.
let's see.
Alvarez. I don't know really about Alvarez either. But I think any other things to throw in there, Gary or Lawrence?
No,
Like,
like I
like,
said,
like,
we need
Well,
to. Go ahead, go ahead.
I
go
was
ahead,
just
Lawrence.
saying, like, I've been reading some of the gossip online,
Uh-huh.
and apparently we're back in Frosserman again.
Yeah,
So
Victor
I don't know.
Osman. Well,
I
I
don't know
feel.
where else.
Go ahead.
No, sorry, you go ahead.
You're gonna say you don't know where Arsenal are with that probably, but I think he's
Yeah.
really going to go to PSG, and this is probably an agent throwing Arsenal into the mix as a ploy with PSG. I think at the end of the day he'll end up either at PSG or Chelsea. Victor
See,
Osman.
I also read that Mikel Arteta wants to get a striker that's proven in the Premier League already, which makes me think either Ivan Toney or Dominic Solanke.
Right? Watkins or Alvarez as well, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and all of those players will be difficult. To prize a striker away from a Premier League team would be extremely difficult. I mean, Ivan Toney, the latest on him could be he's going to end up at that team, as Gary refers to them.
Yeah,
Ivan Toney could.
yeah, yeah. It sounds like that, or like they were interested in Solanke as well. So who knows where these players are going to go? But like I said, I think Arsenal one needs to like if they can't even put a step forward, in bringing a player in, because for me it isn't that we can't we sell Nketiah and then we make the next move. Is the sooner we can do Nketiah, the sooner we can get the next player, the sooner we can go through the whole back and forth like we have in pretty much all of our dealings, it seems, and then bring the player in. It always seems like it's going to take another week or so, as opposed to they've been communicating back and forth. If it all plays out, here's a number. Yes, that's going to be the number, and then bang, 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 sold, and you move on. All right. Like,
Yeah.
what's the point of communicating with the other team if you're not really passing numbers back and forth? Because that's the key at the end of the day, right? Especially if you give them a number that they like, then you don't have to. There's not too much to negotiate after that. So yeah,
And
hopefully we get that striker in, because I think we need a striker. Like I said,
another option.
we need to have an option behind Saka. If we don't have one now, we need to bring one in. If we
Yeah.
have one now, then we need to see it.
The other
Like,
thing. The other thing is, I think I heard about the underage teams, and a couple of players being held back from being named on the underage teams, which leads me to believe they could be part of the Bayer Leverkusen squad. Would be obviously one Airy and
yeah,
maybe Miles Skelly as well.
Ranieri
Probably,
and Skelly look like players we should be part of our rotation a little bit. Should get some
yep,
minutes for us.
yeah,
And Ranieri, for me, if if he's supposed to come in and kind of help or support kind of Emil's Erdogan, he looks good to do that for me, better than what I've seen from Vieira. Like in a little, from the little bits that I've seen, you know. we'll see if he plays out. If it plays out, but we need to get the numbers up, right? We need to be closer to that 18 to 20 mark in terms of players that are part of the first team and that will come in and out of the lineup. That we know will get minutes, right?
We need some players for Tony's academy, for the Arsenal first team to come forward as well. So I think we'll see more of Ranieri this season and Miles Skelly as well. A player who's not afraid to venture in the midfield when the time comes. And what I heard last month is that because of the tournaments, the European Championships and the Copa America, that a lot of the actual transfer activity will happen this month. And
yeah, City's only brought in one player. Anybody think that that's gonna be it for them? Liverpool similarly hasn't brought in.
They haven't brought anyone in. Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, I think those are key teams that need to bring in players that are they expecting to get better? Like is KDB going to be more healthy this year than last? He played in the Euros. So
one thing we haven't heard as well, we haven't heard a lot about Saudi players that are going to Saudi. The Saudi league has been a lot quieter this summer than it has been last summer. I'm wondering if things are just being held back till this month, and we're going to hear a lot more about player A or player B going to a Saudi Arabia team. Lawrence, you got anything else to add? We'll get out of here. Things have been compressed this summer because of those tournaments, and August is going to be a busy month.
Yeah, well, we've got the 2 friendlies at the Emirates over the next few days.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see what the team lineup will be. Personally, I don't think the players who played in the Euros will be in the lineup.
Yeah.
I think they'll need time to get back up to speed. Hopefully, Calafiori will get a game.
Yeah.
But as I said, looking forward to the season when it starts up again.
Yeah, and Lawrence, we're seeing with that kind of timeline what maybe the first couple weeks of our Premier League season will look like in terms of Rice, Saka, and to a lesser extent, Calafiori maybe not being up to speed as quickly as we would want them. And a lot of players go into the first games of the season not 100% fit, and that will definitely be the case for those players.
Yeah, well, you also forgot to mention Saliba.
Yep. He got to a semi-final, though, so Saliba and Havertz are kind of on the same timeline. But you could be right.
Yeah.
Saliba, yeah. You're right.
And he played what all every minute in every Premier League season. Like, will he do the same thing he did to Gabriel? Right? Will he play him? Will he not play him for a couple of games? Just because he knows he can do that. He's going to have to do that at some point.
Thomas Partey in the back line incoming, Gary.
No, that's not what I said at all. I mean, that's not. No.
I know, but if
you know what, Partey starting for Arsenal is not a good thing. Now.
We do have Timber and White this season, so hopefully that's not going to be.
I don't know what you think, but Partey doesn't look anywhere near what we would want from him to say yes. He's a guaranteed starter for us.
Would you be happy? I think we're generally happy if a big offer comes in from Partey. We need to take that money
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he looks aged, and we need. It's not looking. Maybe he's taking a little time to get up to speed, but it's not looking good. So I kind of feel
it could be like that old train engine. The gears take some time to get moving, but when they're moving,
it's like that old. It's like that old dog you got to take round the back of the shed and put him out of his misery.
Oh,
I
poor
don't know. See,
Lawrence.
it's where yeah. You know what? Oh,
We
take
do
the
not
mic away
condone
from the
these
old guy.
things.
He's going crazy. All right, take the mic away from the old guy. He's going crazy, saying crazy stuff.
We do not condone such things here on Arsenal Fan
Yeah,
Circle.
yeah.
Lawrence, thanks for joining today. This is a quick one, a short one. There's not a ton of things going on, but we are 2 weeks away. Next Sunday, we'll be talking about the Lyon game, and Thursday we'll be talking about the Bayer Leverkusen game. But then the following Sunday after that, we'll be talking about Wolverhampton Wanderers, and we'll be happy that Arsenal have once again beaten, and Trossard has probably scored for her as well. So, thanks, Lawrence.
Yeah.
Gary, any
No,
final
thanks,
thoughts?
Gary.
Yeah, we got what is it? I think we need to shut up Xhaka, right? He was talking big game, and
Has Granit Xhaka been talking smack?
he went to Bayern
Oh, bigger
Leverkusen
club.
for bigger things, and
Okay.
he did
Yeah.
bigger things. So he's right about that. But we need to bring him back to reality and show him why this is not the same team you left, no man.
What do you think his reception will be like, Gary?
Well, half the crowd will boo him and half the crowd will cheer him. So he's kind of that's kind of
50-50.
that's how that's gonna go. I think some people
It'll be
like him and
interesting.
some people don't. In reality,
Yeah.
he was a good player for Arsenal. In the last season, the other seasons, it was a bit of a he made it a little difficult, for us to watch him and cheer him on because not all on him, but he was asked to do things he can't do.
He is one of Arsenal's biggest fans now. All last season, he wanted the boys to do it. So, Lawrence, what do you think Xhaka's welcome will be like at the Emirates?
Yeah, I think it's going to be mixed because there are a lot of fans who still remember that incident against Crystal Palace when he got subbed off and he told the crowd to fuck off and ripped his shirt off and threw it to the ground. And I, for one, will never forgive him for that.
Hey, you know what? You need to. Then you're
People
not
have
going to
got
forgive him. Then
memory.
you're not going to forgive any of your fans for going after him and his family. Then, right? Because that's what you're saying,
The
right?
problem is people have got short memories. We had to suffer a load of shit years with him costing us games, right? Until he finally had a good season.
Nah, you're not going to tell me that you go after a man like that and it's all right.
I think, honestly, Lawrence, I think
I don't think so. I don't think you can't go after a man's family like that, like they were doing, and expect him not to eventually blow up.
Well,
He does,
I don't condone that either, mate.
Did you have to forgive then? Because if I think you're forgiving the fans.
I judge a player. I judge a player by his performances on the pitch. Yeah. I don't condone what else was going on in his life, but what I will not forgive is someone who disrespects the shirt and has cost us many points in past games for us.
I think we have to remember as well, it was Unai Emery as well, that the crowd was getting on about that whole issue. It was Unai Emery as well. And Xhaka was the ever-present in that team and took the flack for Unai Emery a lot and responded in the way of a family person, but not in the way of a support of an Arsenal employee.
But how many times did he get needlessly sent off, or his mistakes cost us games?
Yeah,
because I can remember a lot of incidents before all the shit hit the fan, where he cost us games, right?
He did, for sure.
No ifs or buts about it, and it's just like people just have short-term memories, right?
Even recently, where you see him getting sent off against Liverpool and Bukayo Saka telling him that it was his actions, but Xhaka has that mentality where he's like, you should have scored, and I wouldn't have had to do that. But I do feel that with Granit Xhaka being with Mikel Arteta being associated now with Arsenal, that you won't really hear the boos on Wednesday. You will hear more of an appreciation of what he did for us in the last 18 months or 2 years. Um, but I think you'll hear more good than bad, is what I'm saying, Lawrence. Xhaka wasn't as bad as this fan base made him. He fought with everything. He fought with everything probably he had, and at the end of the day, we found the spot on the field for him that was not not hurting the team. We played him in that left eight, and he had probably the best season on Arsenal um, ever.
Okay.
And who knows?
Let me refresh everyone's memory. Burnley, we're 1-0 up against Burnley,
Yep.
right? Leno plays a short ball to him outside the area.
Yep.
He
Tries
dwells
to
on the
chip it
ball
over
too
the
long,
head.
gets
Yep.
robbed, and Burnley score from it.
Yep.
There's an incident where he's got his hands around the throat of a Burnley player.
Yep.
You know, he does it right in
Sent
front
off.
of the referee. You know, people forget all this stuff. He was not that good of a player.
Well,
Yeah,
I will tell you.
one good season
Yeah.
season out of 7 or 8 does not make him a good player or a great player for Arsenal.
Yeah. I will tell you, Gary and I remember all of that because we had to do podcasts after those games. And if you want to go back and look at those podcasts, that was when we were not very good, Gary.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Granit Xhaka,
he made some mental mistakes. He made some physical mistakes. For me, more the mental mistakes are the ones not the physical ones are the ones that I didn't like. Um, but yeah, he made some mental mistakes as well. A little hothead, but you wanted that. Sometimes you were cheering him on when he was doing it, and other times you were pissed off that he was doing it. But he was consistent. So like
sent
I
off
said,
against City when we lost 5-0 at City. Sent
yeah,
off after, 10, 12
yeah,
minutes?
yeah.
You
No,
know?
I don't know. If he's lost games for us, but other players, every other player has lost games for us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's all because their performances weren't good. All right, his
Yeah.
performances aren't good, and he's lost games for us. So that's
We
kind of where I
were.
see it. I when we finally got it to work, that's when we let him go. And I know it was planned ahead of time, but that's Arsenal. Like you wait all this time to figure out how to get the best out of a player. You finally do it, and you're pretty much pigeon yourself into a hole where you got to let him go.
And unfortunately, we paid for it last season. For a half a season, we tried to play Havertz in his spot for half a season. If Granit Xhaka had stayed last season, we probably would have won the league, just for the reason that we would have found Havertz at that number 9 much sooner in the season than we did. You know what I mean? Yeah, Lawrence. We over the course of 6 or 7 seasons, we've seen a lot of bad seasons. Granit Xhaka's moved on, and he was part of Arsenal getting better. And hopefully, we can look at Arsenal this season. And like I said to you and Gary, only have 6 or 7 bad results in the season. I'll definitely take that. You know what I mean? But yeah, we're moving on from Granit Xhaka. We're moving on from
Yeah.
Zinchenko. We're moving on from Jesus. Even go ahead, Lawrence.
No, I agree. You know, you can't dwell in the past.
Yeah,
You got to move forwards. You know.
I know, but at the same time, you're right. We recognize who Granit Xhaka was for 5 or 6 seasons, and we had 1 or 2 good seasons because we found them in the right
Yeah.
spot in the field, and the right spot in the field where he wasn't being forced to do something that he can't do. We're doing that to Zinchenko now as well. We did that to Zinchenko last season. We're putting him in positions where he cannot succeed. Hopefully, Calafiori coming in will shore that left back spot up, and hopefully Calafiori is the player that can now solve our left back issues. that we've had for since probably that other Spanish player who was the left back. I can't remember his name now. Remember him?
Yeah,
He was
no,
a consistent left back for Arsenal 7 or 8 years ago.
yeah, no, we definitely need to, like you said,
Nacho,
yeah, we
Nacho
definitely,
Monreal.
yeah,
Nacho,
and
Monreal.
the level of Nacho Monreal, isn't like at the level like a Ben White the way he was playing. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So that's where the team is. So Nacho isn't even close to like the other three players on our back line
Yeah.
based on where we are today, and that's kind of
All
what we
right.
want. That's what we want.
We'll
So
leave it there. Hopefully, there's some news breaks tomorrow for Gary. You're having a show tomorrow.
yep. Tomorrow the trip will be on 12:30 a.m. for you guys on the across the pond there.
All right.
7:30 p.m. for you guys on the East Coast.
All right. I've had a good chat with you guys today, and hopefully we'll see you on Thursday again. We've explored the differences in valuations of players, availability, injury, efficiency, and quality. It just strikes me as odd that Emis Monroe is valued equally to Eddie Nketiah, but there are extenuating circumstances to that. Calafiori in, and hopefully Mikel Marino in the next couple of days before the Bayer Leverkusen game, and you can see the these players will raise the basement of the squad as well. Okay, we're out of here. Thanks everybody. Slap a like on the video, subscribe if you're new around here, and check out Gary tomorrow on
See ya.
DWTT, right?
Hmm.
The trip. The
Yes,
trip.
sir. Yeah, see the
Yes.
trip on
I
DWT.
finally got it.
Yeah.
Saturday is the road trip, and Monday is the trip. All right. Take care, Lawrence and Gary. Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
We're out of
See
here.
ya.
Come on, you Gooners.